How am I supposed to introduce a legend, you may ask? Well, it's taken me 17 years of my life to truly understand his dynamic and outgoing personality. My friend Colin, otherwise known as Hartzell, truly lives the life of a champion. Ever since our Upper Darby youth soccer days, Colin has always had the competitive spirit of a young athlete. Academically, the grades can speak for themselves, but what I admire most about Colin is his work ethic and his interest in helping others. Colin's desire to help others has given him the opportunity to serve and give back to the people of Ghana. It's going to be hard without Colin in my life next year, not only because I want to arrive at school, but because I'm losing someone special. So ladies and gentlemen, my best friend, my role model, and my brother, Colin Hartzell.
Thanks to Reverend Squire and the vestry for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'd also like to thank the entire class of 2012 for merely existing as the greatest class to ever attend the Episcopal Academy. Many of you may not know who I am, so I'd figure I'd tell you a little about myself. And yes, I also enjoy a nice clean game of bike polo. I came to EA in 6th grade, basically dragged by my feet. I went to a public elementary school in Drexel Hill called Hillcrest, located about 3 blocks from my house. I would walk to and from school every day with both my sisters who wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. So I basically walked by myself. I had some of the best moments there and met the friends that I still continue to hang out with today. The classes were easy and we had recess twice a day. It couldn't get any better. Towards the end of 5th grade, it wasn't even a possibility in my mind that I was going anywhere else but Drexel Hill Middle, followed by Upper Darby after my 8th grade graduation. My parents, however, had other plans. To tell the truth, my mom and dad were very sneaky about this operation. I visited Penn Charter and EA in April of 5th grade, not really knowing who these schools were or why I was visiting them. I didn't think too much about it. I knew my dad went to EA, so I just thought he wanted me to see the school that he graduated from. But then I started doing extra testing with Bryn Mawr Child Study. At this point, I was starting to catch on. When they told me that I wasn't going to Drexel Hill Middle, I flipped. I tried pulling every excuse in the book of why I shouldn't switch schools. Talk about anything from not fitting in to the possible trauma it could have on a young, maturing boy such as myself. I was creative, but they were not budging, so off I went. Let's fast forward to freshman year. If you asked me what I thought about the Episcopal Academy, you would not hear good things. Not because I didn't like it, but I was influenced by the people from home who didn't really know EA. They would refer to it as something along the lines of a school for stuck-up rich kids who didn't really know what they had. As selfish as it was, I felt like I got the short end of the stick, ending up at EA instead of Upper Darby. Freshman year, to most people, I was probably the kid who managed to lacerate his spleen by being tabletopped and was forced to spend a week in the intensive care unit at CHOP, followed by 3 weeks of house stay. We tried using a system where I would basically video chat with my teachers from my couch as they were teaching the class. You can imagine how big of a failure that was when I could easily play Bubble Trouble without any of my teachers knowing. Maybe to some people, I was the kid who was about 4 feet nothing and knew pretty much every lyric to every Eminem song, with bangs as straight as an arrow. But that's not why I'm here. I could stand here and tell you my whole experience at EA and all the stupid things that I've done up to today. And although it would probably be entertaining, it would be pointless. When I was about 8 years old, one day I got really sick to the point where I was throwing up constantly. Maybe it was food poisoning or just a bug, but either way, I was miserable. My mom stayed home with me as any mother would, trying to comfort me and whatnot, but there was nothing to do but wait it out and hand me a trash can. In the middle of this epidemic, as my mom tells the story, I managed to look up to the sky and let out a loud, almost a scream, "Why me?" As funny as the context of this exclamatory was, this "why me" state of mind stuck with me for my following years. Why was it me who was forced to go to the school and leave all my boys from home? To me, it's embarrassing that it took me until my junior year of high school to really understand the meaning of why me. When I visited my sister Tara in Ghana last year, at the orphanage where she was living, I didn't know what to expect. Our plan was to have an American Thanksgiving with the kids of New Life Orphanage and to help out as much as we could. When my sister Kimberly and I arrived at the airport, the first thing we saw were two natives screaming in each other's faces, fighting over who would carry the bags to the taxi for us. You can imagine the first impression it left. How could two white city kids possibly make a difference to 40 orphan children who barely speak English? Arriving at the orphanage was a sight that I will never forget. Their home was about the size of half of our cafeteria, to put it into perspective, with a man named Cephas Mensa Afote in charge. The unique thing about this orphanage was that the women, most of them not even 18 years old, were in charge of taking care of the young and making the meals. The women basically ran the orphanage. Cephas was in charge of the financial aspects. The boys slept in one cabin and the girls in another. Each of the boys slept on a thin, cotton, thermarest-type mattress on the floor in the sticky, 90-degree weather room with only a single fan blowing in one direction. The kids had no one, no parents, usually no siblings, no mentors, no psychiatrists, no one. All they had was each other. The kids of New Life Orphanage had a bond like nothing I've ever seen. At one point in their life, they all had some traumatic experience that put them where they were, whether it was losing their parents to AIDS or completely being abandoned. The only thing that these kids had was each other. You would think that they would be very unwelcoming of strangers due to their past experiences, but when my sister and I arrived, they welcomed us like family. The youngest ones would come up and grab us as if we were their long-lost cousins whom they haven't seen in years. They would refer to us as Obruni, which in their language, native language, means white person or foreigner. They were polite and always smiling. I asked the other man who was helping out the orphanage how he would describe these kids in a sentence or two. He replied, "Imagine the poorest kids you can possibly imagine, who are happier than I could ever be." We tend to hear speeches that focus on helping the poor in Africa and usually feel bad for them for the rest of the chapel, or even into the next block. But then we continue to move on with our lives. When you see things firsthand, however, it's as if you're entering a new world. With help from the boys of the undefeated JV boys soccer team last year, and a lot of my family members and neighbors, we managed to raise $3,000 as a donation towards New Life. When I presented this, along with huge bags of clothes donated by EA, it almost brought Cephas to tears. You see, I didn't realize how much in debt he really was, and how he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to afford their next meal. Things in Ghana are much cheaper than here in the US. Therefore, the money that we donated went towards building a roof for their school and supplied them with fresh water for the rest of the year. Never would I have thought that these kids would have had more of an impact on me than I did on them. So now here I am, 17 years old, about to graduate from the Episcopal Academy, amazingly accepted into college, and I finally realized how lucky I really am. Why me? Why was I lucky enough to have the parents who can support me at a school such as Episcopal? Why was I lucky enough to have teachers like Senor Dwyer who can look me in my eyes and tell me to stop messing around and get my act together if I want to go to college, something that I really needed to hear. So now I've decided to follow my sister's footsteps. Next year, I'll be going to Tanzania to help out as much as I can in an orphanage located in the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. Once again, I don't know what to expect. Ghana and Tanzania are two completely different countries with many different problems. To quote Marshall Mathers, "The truth is, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and life is a crazy ride. You see, I'm not going to go save 10,000 lives like the guy who spoke last week. I'm no saint. A girl like Alex Bellotti is a saint. To have a smile on her face every day after everything she's been through is something that I could never do. All I am is some kid from just outside Philadelphia trying to help out those who don't have as much. A kid who finally realized what he really had." Thank you.